Here in the College of the Liberal Arts. Today is our alumni career conversation, Careers in Human Resources. We have three great alumni mentors with us to speak about their career journey and to provide helpful information and advice for fellow Penn Staters about this industry. I'm going to begin by reading our alumni bios, and I have some questions prepared to ask if needed, but we do encourage you to use the Q&A as well as the chat to share your own thoughts or questions that Lauren will be monitoring along the way. Lauren Grenice is also here from the Career Enrichment Network. First, we have David Epstein. David shares a well-defined understanding of the business world today and possesses the capacity to identify and align clients' needs with the products and services being offered. Coming from a successful and diverse background in human capital, David is able to engage decision makers, devise winning strategies and solutions, and provide organizations with a way to fuel employee growth now and into the future. David is also an advisor to business owners and early stage technology and fintech companies, a retained career advisor, Penn State board member, and a sought after speaker, presenter, and lecturer to various companies, universities, and firms across the country. Thank you for being here, David. And next on our panel is Ashley Pfeifenberger. Ashley received her Bachelor of Science degree from Penn State, where she majored in economics with a minor in international business. She was involved with Thon and Women in Business on campus. After graduation, she got her start in HR at the Walt Disney Company as a recruiting coordinator with the Disney College Program and Disney Cruise Line. She recently celebrated her 8-year anniversary working at Beacon Hill Staffing Group and is currently a lead corporate recruiter responsible for internal entry-level campus hiring. Thank you for participating in today's panel, Ashley. And next, we have Sawyer Wellham. As a seasoned human resources professional, Sawyer brings extensive experience in talent management, employee engagement, and HR strategy. Currently serving as the head of people for Metaverse, Sawyer is dedicated to fostering a positive and inclusive work environment that supports the growth and development of both the company and its team members. She is known for her ability to build strong relationships across all levels of an organization and is committed to staying up to date with the latest HR trends and best practices to ensure that Metaverse is at the forefront of HR innovation. Sawyer holds a Master of Professional Studies in Psychology of Leadership and a Bachelor of Science in Labor Studies and Employment Relations here from Penn State. She also holds the SHRM SCP certification. In her free time, Sawyer enjoys exploring the DMV with her fiance, trying new foods, planning trips, taking care of her 2 cats, and is actively involved in the Penn State Liberal Arts Mentorship Program. Thank you for joining us today as well, Sawyer. Thank you all for being here and sharing your bios with us. I want to again remind those in attendance that they may put their questions in the Q&A or chat, but I would like to start off the conversation with the question, how did you decide on your career journey? So let's start in the order in which you were introduced. So David, can you answer that first?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. So it was an internship actually that really led me on this journey. I thought that I was going to continue in some family's footsteps and be an attorney, and I thought labor law would be fun and employment, law would be fun. So growing up outside of Atlantic City, New Jersey, I had the casinos really to kind of depend on if I wanted an internship. So I did a rotational internship after my junior summer with the HR department in Harrah's and Caesars Corporation, and first month was all collective bargaining, employee relations, and just hated it. And I was like, oh, well, crap, what's life gonna look like now? And then second month was all staffing and recruiting, and really just fell in love with that. Talking to people, figuring out what they maybe, wanted that next destination to be, or help them fine tune it and then make the match with any companies that might make sense for them. And then the third month was all the back office, I call it part of HR, from benefits to onboarding, compensation, and that wasn't really my cup of tea either. And kind of flash forward 17 years now at this point, and I've always been in the staffing and recruiting side on the agency level, because I kind of got a little bit of experience both doing corporate recruiting and also agency. And agency is just a little bit more, I would say, my style. I think it's a little bit more fast paced, I like some of the opportunities that come along with it as well. And it's a little bit more about my journey.
Thanks, David. Ashley, how did you decide on your career journey?
That's a great question. I kind of fell into it. So being an econ major, I wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to take my career. Throughout my time at Penn State, I did the Disney College program. I was a campus rep for them at Penn State too. So I had a little bit of the recruiting experience. And so that's what kind of catapulted me to recruiting and HR and moving to Florida after graduation, working at Disney, and kind of fell into the recruiting side from networking, which is what I recommend to all my students. And so from there was a recruiting coordinator for the Disney College program, and then was a recruiting coordinator for Disney Cruise Lines. So it was more the back end of recruiting, HRIS, onboarding, new hire orientation, a lot of the supporting the recruiters in office as well. I was there for a few years after graduation. I was really ready to kind of kick my career to the next level. I was really hungry. I really wanted to move to Chicago. And so started networking again, had a lot of exploratory calls, fell into staffing, which is where I'm at now with Beacon Hill Staffing Group. It was still recruiting, but really fast paced. And I can be in control of my success and the impact I could create for myself and others. So started as a staffing consultant with our Chicago Associates division, did temporary office support staffing for almost 3 years, and then pivoted into our corporate and campus recruiting division, where I've been on this team for over 5, and I oversee all of our internal entry-level campus hiring for the greater Midwest, and exclusively recruit at Penn State as well, which is the best. That's a little bit about me.
And Sawyer, how about you?
Of course. Hi, everyone. So I am dialing in from Arlington, Virginia, and my story started out a little bit like David's. I always thought I was going to go into law. And so starting off at Penn State, it was poli-sci, hated the classes. So right off the bat, I was just like, oh no, this is a problem. I took an internship, kind of explored law a little bit further between my freshman and sophomore year. Again, what I learned from that internship was that it wasn't a waste of my time. I did not want to go into law. And so it kind of started my sophomore year from scratch, took a couple more gen eds, just exploring everything from economics to anthropology to, I'm trying to think what else was in there. I explored all sorts of majors during that time. I had a very hands-on career guidance coach at that point. But spring of my sophomore year, I started taking a class in LER. It was LER 100, Labor Employment Relations, although it took me probably a month or so to remember what LER even stood for. But it was just easy for me. Like I just got it. I enjoyed it. It was about the history of labor. I was killing it in the class, but there was an extra credit opportunity that offered dinner. So as a college student, it was like, okay, they have sandwiches. This is why I'm going to go to this session tonight. But it was human capital for, it was Deloitte or one of the big 4. So I sat there and all of a sudden everything, including my sandwich, became very clear to me what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I walked outside, called my parents, and switched my major the next day. So for me, it was not the clearest path. I struggled at Penn State to kind of find what I wanted to do. And I mean, everyone else seemed like they were figuring out what they wanted to do, but I just continued. I did not have any passion for my classes. And if I'm not interested in something, it was very hard for me to actually dedicate my time. But once I found LER, my entire experience at Penn State changed. So threw myself into it. I got an unpaid internship in the summer, which then led to my first paid internship. So I was one of the 6 first HR interns at Amazon. And that was the start of my career. And so from there, I just kind of followed what I enjoyed. I did not enjoy working at a warehouse, but I loved the fast-paced energy of being in HR. So I moved down from Baltimore to DC, and I started working with a global firm. I loved working with people from all over the world. But then I outgrew my role. I switched to a tech company, and then from there went to a management consulting firm, and have now followed, I guess, all of my interests and passions in one. I work for a tech startup, a global tech startup, and so I'm able to kind of have, I guess, collaborate with team members from all over the world and be on the cutting edge of innovation and technology every single day. So that is a bit of my journey. All started with a sandwich at Penn State.
I love that. There's a couple taglines from there. Started with a sandwich. Follow what you love. I love it. Great. Thank you all for those very unique perspectives and stories. So for our students that are joining in with an interest in a career in HR, what would be your advice for them on making this a career? What tips or advice would you provide them? So we'll start, David.
So I would say it's important. I think you kind of heard us all say that an internship can really lead you down the path of what you like, but also more importantly, what you don't like, right? And especially if you do a rotational program in the HR department, you'll get a little bit of a taste of everything. And even though we might, be, 20, 21, 22, whatever it is, we're still hopefully, mature enough to realize what it might be that we want to do. But I also tell people all the time, like, unless we win the lottery, we're going to be working till we're 60, 65, right? So, and you're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to take a job and realize it's not for you, right? It's going to happen, right? So, and it's okay to make those mistakes and just make sure you have a good structure around you, when that might happen. But I think internships are really important to kind of, figure that out.
Great, thank you. Do either of you, Ashley or Sawyer, have anything you'd like to add?
I love that. I definitely agree with David about the internships. You'll see what you like, what you don't like, and then you can help narrow down your job search for full-time opportunities from there. Advice that I give a lot of my candidates, because I connect with a lot of recent grads or anyone about to graduate about full-time opportunities, is really get out there, put yourself out there, have exploratory calls, network, have different conversations just to really see what's out there, talk with different people from different industries, different types of roles. And that way, when you really broaden your job search, then from there, you can see what you like and what you don't like and able to narrow down from there. So I say networking, putting yourself out there, exploring different opportunities and avenues is definitely key.
I'd say another thing too is remembering that HR is like a wheel. So there's HR at the core of it in the middle, but what does that even mean? It's more the generalist stance on things. So if you think about a wheel and the way it's built, there's all of the different spokes and avenues, and you can stay a generalist and get to know kind of at a high level about all the different facets of HR, or if there's something that you're really passionate about, whether it be comp or benefits or employee performance or recruitment. There's so many different areas that you can dive in. There's education to back all of that. There's certifications, there's networking opportunities. And then even with all of this that we're talking about, there's the consideration of the size of the company you want to work for and the type of industries you want to work for. And each one brings a lot of different positives and can better balance your strengths. And so something to consider too is also being self-aware of what type of environment you work best in. And maybe a massive company isn't the best thing for you because there aren't as many opportunities and you're more limited in your growth. Or maybe you like being very busy and hands-on everything. Maybe a smaller company would be better for you in terms of having so much more exposure and access to leadership. So I think there's just a lot of different considerations too, not pigeonholing yourself by, oh, at Penn State, they're only talking about these main companies, but there's just endless opportunities out there. So get your foot in the door, start with something, learn what you like and don't like, ask questions, and then continue forward.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. And I think Ashley's point with exploratory calls and informational interviews and talking with folks who are doing it is a great way to gain insight and what better folks to go to than Penn State alums as well. So I'm going to go back to liberal arts and just ask you if you can share what liberal arts skills do you think are most valuable for the HR industry and ones that you use within your career. So since you all responded there, okay, Ashley, it looks like you want to jump in there. Go ahead.
I just have one little thing. No, the first thing that comes to mind for me is written and oral communication. I mean, as a recruiter, I'm literally talking all day, every day, which I love. And it's also about building relationships, solving problems, being able to navigate, different situations and scenarios. So for me, like number one is communication, and especially in something that I use every day in my job too.
Great. Sawyer or David, do you have anything to add?
Trying to think, liberal arts specific. I mean, Ashley just touched upon about building relationships. I think it goes so much further than that. One thing that's always really helped me in my career is the mentorship aspect, not in a formal capacity, like saying, oh my gosh, you have to have a formal mentor or mentee, but just having more informal, inquisitory conversations with people. So especially entry level, when you're at a job, understand what the people around you are doing. Start connecting the dots, especially in a business kind of environment. How does your role impact others? If you can start understanding kind of the greater kind of plan and strategy and vision of a company, even at an entry level position, it is going to position you so much better to be able to support and grow within your role. So coming back again to the relationships, the communication, cannot kind of emphasize enough the importance of those two things in your long-term career.
Yeah, I mean, and if I'm being technical and saying like, I guess maybe the majors or whatever in liberal arts, yeah, communications for sure. And then I put psychology as well, because we're dealing with human beings, right? And it's also weird, if you look at like Ashley and I's background in staff and recruiting, sucks to say this, but like you're dealing and like selling sometimes human beings, right? That like have emotional intelligence and psychology behind them. And then one of my minors was dispute management resolution, which I don't know if that's still a minor or still something that's an offer, but especially if you want to go into law or employee relations or collective bargaining or different things like that. So I guess that's what I would say would be some of the things to focus on the educational side. But yeah, I think, Sawyer said it, like when I really found out what I loved, I like totally geeked out at it. Right. And I love it. And I read all the books and I just like love listening to what people, have said or have done. And I think when we got into a lot of those classes where a lot of it was practical, and we could, kind of learn about that and learn from, folks like us or people that became professors after, a career in the space. That's the stuff that I really loved, because it just really clicked when you started hearing real life and real world examples.
Wonderful. Thank you for all of that. What would you say was your most valuable resource at Penn State? Start Sawyer.
I would say my mentor, to be honest. So I was a part of the program early on, and that is why I am now a mentor. I meet with my mentee every other Friday. We talk a lot, actually. We have a wonderful relationship. She's my second one. But it's because she was able to give me that real life perspective. So to David's point, like I just wanted to learn more, but there's only so much that you learn in a classroom. And so especially with your first job too, it's going to be important to just be a sponge, take it all in. It might be very, very different than what your expectations could ever even imagined, the day in, day out. And now it's a little bit different. You're not going to an office 8 hours a day, probably, most likely. I mean, since the pandemic, things have changed. Understanding how to navigate a virtual kind of world and building relationships, that is going to transition over to the real world. And something that when I'm doing the mock interviews with students, I ask that question. Like, what have you learned in your studies throughout the pandemic that will make you more adaptable, make you more flexible, make you be able to better, I guess, interact or communicate within a hybrid or virtual kind of workplace environment. And a lot of those skills transition. So keep that in mind. But with my mentor, I felt like I could ask her any questions. I was able to leverage her for mock interviews, prepare for interviews. And also she helped me transition the skills that I was learning and experiences at Penn State and how I could represent that to an employer. because an employer is not going to understand what you're doing academically or maybe specific projects, but if you can relate working with teams or time zones or that you had a challenge with a specific prompt that you needed to come up with a solution under a timeline, and it was you were trying to balance multiple priorities. All of those things translate to the workplace environment. So just kind of having that advocate and helping me understand was very valuable.
Thank you. Yeah, we work oftentimes with students and they're trying to display on their resume or communicate, to an employer, all of these different skills that they have. And oftentimes those skills are those transferable soft skills that can relate to so many different work environments. So that is excellent. And thank you all again for being an alumni mentor to our students. Greatly appreciated. Ashley and David, do either of you have something that you would like to add about a valuable resource at Penn State that you appreciated?
Yeah, this is a little outside of the box, but for something that came to mind for me was being a part of like different clubs and organizations on campus. So like really finding something that really resonates with you, whether it's from, your college or from your major, or just a general interest. Like I was super involved with women in business. And from that, again, networking, connections, I got to meet all different types of like companies and organizations and learn about different opportunities, but then also being really involved with Thon and all the hard work that goes into putting in fundraising and connecting with each other to raise money for an amazing cause. And then Thon comes, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe all this hard work came to this fruition. And for me, being part of Thon made me realize I really love helping people and creating an impact, which is what recruiting is all about too. So that was also a light bulb moment for me of like, oh, I think I really like recruiting. When I was figuring out what's next steps for me, my job search, really reflecting about, okay, what was my time on campus like in terms of like my experience with classes, but also with the clubs and organizations, and kind of taking what you like and didn't like from those, and again, kind of getting more of that clarity on, okay, what's that next step for me, and driving that path from there.
Yeah, I would say some of my greatest resources are, probably some of the women that you see here, Danielle and Lauren, right? Just utilizing what Penn State gives you, number one. Number two, would be, my first job I found, and I'm just blanking on where, I know the name of the company, of course, but where it was the portal that you can sign in and see like the companies that posted jobs. That
would be in Alumni Careers right now.
Yeah, right. So you're right. I forget what it was called back when, in 2005 when I was using it. But I found my first job from there, right? So being able to utilize that platform, but also what people might realize, or if they don't, Penn State's one of the largest networks. Everyone loves Penn State. Everyone loves talking about Penn State. So capitalize on that. And also go to the job fairs. Every company wants to come to Penn State. It's a great, they know that they get great students from them, great workers. They're trained as best as they can as students to enter, the workforce, all of the good stuff. So I would say just be active and bluntly take advantage of the resources that are given to you 99% of the time for free, right? And kudos to the 16 or 18 people that are on here now, because there should be thousands, but only the 18 or 20 of you took the steps to want to come on here and better yourself. So.
Absolutely. Thank you all for that. I love hearing all of these things that we tell our students, and you're definitely making us sound like we know what we're talking about. So that's great. I am going to put on the hat of the student as if I'm doing an informational interview with you, and I'd love to know, what are the most encouraging parts of your work? What do you love most? What makes you excited to get going on Monday morning? We'll start with Ashley.
All right. I think for me, what I love about what I do in recruiting is like, I'm literally placing someone in a job. I'm creating an opportunity, and going back to, I always like to use the word impact, because that's literally what I love to do. I'm creating an impact for myself, for others, for our teams, for our company at large. And that's what I just love. Like I get to meet with great students on campus. Thank you, David, for shouting out the career fairs. Come see me when I'm on campus in the spring and the fall. And just building those relationships and connections. And for me, I love an exploratory call with students. And I really love kind of getting in and getting to know a little bit more about them. What are you motivated by? What are your top 3 personal professional goals? Let's reflect on these. Let's talk through these. So I really love to take a little bit more of like a consultative advisory approach when it comes to my style of recruiting, because I'm bringing on, students to our organizations, their first full-time job after graduation. And, I really want to make sure it's the right fit for them and the right opportunity. So that's what I love, is really, taking this great connection and building this great relationship and having these awesome conversations. And nothing makes me more fulfilled than like placing them in an awesome opportunity with our teams and then seeing their success flourish a year, 2, 3 from now. I just placed someone who's starting with our Chicago team that's going to be managed by someone I placed 2 years ago. So it's so exciting to see the growth and the success and opportunities that can come from finding that right fit for you after college. So that's what I love. And I could talk about this all day, but we'll stop there.
Sawyer, David?
David, go for it.
Okay, sure. So similar, it seems like, Ashley and I are really cut from same and similar cloths. So some of our answers might be the same, but it's to me, it's the fact that we know we're going to help so many great sides and parties in it. And a lot of sometimes on the staffing side, it's called like clients or vendors, but we really talk about the folks that we work with as partners, right? Because there's got to be trust, communication, accountability in any, relationship or partnership. And that's really the key. So what we love is creating that partnership with, with the folks that we work with, really getting an understanding of their personality, their culture, the culture within the culture, the ideal person on and off paper that they're really looking for. And then, finding out the non-negotiables, the must-haves, all of that, and then really enjoying the art of finding that perfect person, or maybe 2 or 3, and then sending the folks over and orchestrating the process. It's fun to kind of be in control of, 5 or 6 different destinies and lives and families, that might be involved. And hopefully there's always, a happy ending or a smile, and that's what we all strive for. So. That's all I got.
Okay.
So.
that was good. Did you have anything to add?
I do. Yeah, I bring a little bit different perspective just because I'm in-house HR. And so even though in my current role, I do a little bit of recruiting, it's actually just personally my least favorite part of my role because there's just, like I mentioned, there's so many different aspects of HR. And so once they're brought in the door, especially right now, I guess I should backtrack a little bit so it makes more sense what I'm going to talk about. But about a year ago, I left a very comfortable role as a business partner, which had been my dream since graduating Penn State, to become an HR business partner. And I finally got there and I was doing really, really well. And I got a call to join a tech startup as their director of HR, director of people, but basically build an HR department from the ground up. And so I had to think about it, and I ended up taking that leap of faith there, and they handed me an electronic folder, literally an electronic folder that said, people, figure it out. Okay, so that is what I did. And I'm working for a technology firm that is building metaverse environments for enterprises. So we're working with companies like PepsiCo and Nike and some really big names. And so what I do every day, I love them. We're talking about Monday morning, I wake up knowing that I have a purpose, which is to make this the best place to work, first of all, but also build the foundation and structure and strategy and partner with the business in all aspects of the business. I mean, I wear so many hats. I sometimes don't know which hat I'm wearing for which day. I have to keep switching them out. But you really make such a difference, especially because it is a small company. And so I love that. I've worked for bigger companies, but I personally enjoy working for smaller companies because I get to have a big impact, and everything I'm doing is very intentional, and I'm able to build relationships with everyone on the team, and we're working with a global population. So we have team members, for example, actually some of them through a staffing firm are in Belarus. And so dealing with the geopolitical kind of situation over there, or teams down in Latin America, and understanding how all of the different cultures and dynamics and people work together in problem solving, I think is a really big thing too, like time zones. How are we focusing on the workflow so that it is seamlessly transitioned through all the different time zones, even though we have language barriers, and how do we synchronize all the tools and kind of the terminology to get everyone on the same page. So I get to work with our leaders, our managers, our teams, and it drives me to do what I do every day. I just love it. I could, like Ashley, I could talk about what I do all day, every day. So I'll just stop. But I hope all of you can find a career like that excites you. And HR is definitely an area where I am confident anyone going into HR is not going away. It's only going to get more important as the time goes on, especially throughout our careers at this point. So just throw yourselves into it, find something you love, and go for it.
Yes, Sawyer, I just got to say, thank goodness you took LHR 100, because who knows,
Thank God.
right, where you'd be otherwise. We thank you all for those things. Those are all wonderful, differing, fabulous points that you all made. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A. The first one I'm going to read, it's a little lengthy, so I will read it. And then if whoever wants to take it first, feel free. It says, I am a sophomore majoring in psychology. I want to know how I can reach out for internships in HR and how I can figure out which of them are good. Also, how should one prepare during the career fair, and which companies should we target? So there are a few different questions in there. If you can touch on where to search for internships in HR, the approach that you might take, and preparation for career events.
I can take the psychology piece.
Okay.
If we want to split this question a little bit.
Sure.
I was going to say, in terms of finding jobs, I think I'll let the experts, Ashley and David, touch on that. But so when I was at Penn State, my major was LER, but my minors, I had one in business of the liberal arts and the other one was in psychology. So I was always very, very passionate about psychology, although I knew I didn't want to necessarily be a psychologist and sit down and listen to people's problems all day. Although ironically in HR, that's what you do a lot of the time. So it's kind of come full circle. But Penn State had a really neat master's degree, and that's kind of what I'm getting to here. It's one thing about being in HR too, is you don't want to necessarily close yourself off and only, like, I guess, focus on HR. You want to make sure that you do have some flexibility there. And so my master's is in psychology of leadership. And so that is a really, really good angle for someone who is interested in HR and also psychology. A lot of things we learned about in the psychology of leadership program is self-awareness. So not only self-awareness of yourself, but self-awareness of others, and focusing on personality traits and how you can build effective teams. And so that, I mean, it goes into project planning, it goes into performance management, employee relations, engagement, culture, diversity and inclusion. I mean, there are just so many different aspects that psychology touches upon that I don't think necessarily are highlighted in school. But just because I've had an opportunity to kind of come from the educational background, but also I paired it with a professional kind of path. And so that's really helped me to where I am today. So that's just kind of some advice from that standpoint. And then as far as finding jobs, I'll let Ashley and David kind of take it away.
And I'll be short and sweet, only because I think getting into this is just like a whole nother thing. And, Ashley will know, like, we don't have to keep going about like what a Boolean search is, but I was looking over here because I literally just went to Indeed and sorted by the word internship, because there's different categories. You can do full-time, part-time, whatever. I just clicked the word internship and did United States. 23,000 jobs came up as being posted in LinkedIn under internship, right? And then of course you could change it. If I said, okay, I want something that is only remote, 535, right? So you're looking at like 4 to 5% of jobs are going to be fully remote. So I always tell people, 83 to 85% of people want a fully remote job. Guess what? You're dreaming, because only 22 to 25% of them are actually remote, and most of them are in jobs that you are not going to do. Okay. So get with kind of where it is now. And some of it is really going hybrid. It's like, all right, we'll give a little bit, you give a little bit. It's not going to be fully remote. We're getting back to a little normalcy. So that's a really quick thing that you can do, on there. And then you can also kind of go through some people on LinkedIn if you're doing any types of search strings, and just type in the words, hiring and internship or something like that with different search strings. And you'll come up with people that in their profile have the words "we are hiring" and also something about an internship, right? Sure, you're going to get some weird stragglers in there that say "we are hiring," and then in their job description, they talked about how great their internship was 9 years ago, right? That's not helpful, right? But, Ashley knows what I'm talking about. But you are going to find some good stuff in there that will point you in the right direction. And then, just like I said before, take advantage of Danielle and Lauren and Whitney Careers, because stuff is posted there too. So.
Yeah, piggybacking off that, using your resources on campus is absolutely critical. Connecting with Lauren, connecting with Danielle, your career services contacts, they'll help strategize with you and get a plan together. What are you looking for? They connect with all the employers, that want to connect with you, so they can make some great introductions. I know Lauren has done that for me, before as well. And so, take advantage of that. They can get a game plan together for you. What internships are available, even helping you navigate any line careers. I would say that is the number one resource. And that's what I would also use too in preparing for the career fair. A lot of the companies that are coming will have their jobs posted live. You can filter out by different types of positions, different types of HR roles, recruiting positions, if you want full-time, if you want internship, and write them all down, make a list, even research who's going, who's the campus recruiter contact, or just even having an idea of okay, a one sentence blurb of, okay, what is this company? What do I want to learn about them? And what internships do they have available? So when you go up to the career fair, you go up to the campus recruiter. Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm a May 2023, Penn State grad. I'm looking for internship opportunities within HR. So you had this HR coordinator position posted. Love to learn more. Could you share some more details, right? So, kind of get your 30-second elevator pitch down and really be confident in what you're looking for. And if you come with those, that information and that research, that's even better for you, and using your time wisely, especially at the career fair. There's a lot of companies that are there too. So have a game plan together. Or if you're not sure, just go up to a company and say, hey, I'm really interested in learning about your company and what you do. That's fine too. I love that. I love having those types of conversations. But yeah, definitely take advantage of your resources and the Career Services Center for sure.
And I want to add one thing too, to just really piggyback on what Ashley said too, because the Penn State network is so absurdly incredible. And it's so easy to go on LinkedIn and click Penn State and see other people that work there. I have never once in my entire life had somebody that reached out to me that said, hey, fellow Penn State grad, or hey, fellow Penn State student graduating, I'd love to chat with you for 15 minutes, that I said, sorry, I don't have time. Right. So it's so easy to find people, and especially if you take advantage of this network, there's no one that you can't find on LinkedIn that you couldn't find 50 of them that probably do what you're thinking that you probably want to do, that would give you the time of day. But if you don't ask, you're not going to get anything, right? And people are so scared to ask, but don't be scared, because I guarantee you ask 50 of us, 48 are going to say yes. And the other 2 people just didn't see your message yet. All right.
I'm so
just
glad
ask.
you said that, David. I'm so glad you said that. I am always on LinkedIn with our students. There are over 500,000 people on LinkedIn who have Penn State in their education, and you can't beat that network. So definitely take advantage of that. Our next question that was posted in Q&A, this is for all of you, and you could definitely, I'm sure, spend a day on this, but it says, what does a typical day in the job entail for each of your different positions and companies? So if you could kind of briefly explain maybe a typical day. We'll start with Ashley.
Okay. All right. So a typical day for me is, opening up my email What do I have going on? Who's reaching out? And also looking at my schedule, I try to be as organized as possible day to day and for the entire week of like, what's my plan and what do I have going on? So a lot of my day to day, I'm on LinkedIn Recruiters sourcing, trying to reach out to candidates to connect with me for our internal opportunities. So a lot of sourcing. I'm on the phone a lot. So going back to talking to people all day, I'm doing a lot of interviews throughout the day. I have meetings with my direct team. I have meetings with my boss. And then from there, I connect with someone amazing. I run the entire interview process. So a lot of my day-to-day is really being organized of the status and the steps of where my candidates are in process. Am I getting them submitted over to a hiring manager for review? We're getting that set up and scheduled. I'm scheduling that. I'm preparing my candidate for that call. Are they set? I'm sending them all the details. And I'm with every candidate through the entire step of the process, all the way through the offer stage, and then making sure they get their onboarding and starting with us. So my day-to-day can fluctuate, but I would say in terms of typical day-to-day responsibilities, it's a lot of email. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm posting jobs, a lot of interviewing, debriefing, prepping with candidates, with hiring managers, and getting people through the process. And the best part is offering a job. I wish I could do those every day, but those are the best days.
Thanks, Ashley. Sawyer, a typical day?
I'm trying to think how to best summarize one of my days in the startup world. So I guess it's more by week. I think week by week is the best way to kind of organize some of this. Like there's chunks of time I allocate for different things, knowing that every day is going to be different. And so I just need to make sure that there's enough flexibility in my schedule to kind of deal with what's thrown. But because we're a technology firm, we do focus on like objectives and key results and sprints and mapping what we're doing in JIRA. And so starting with like the management meeting, getting aligned with leadership first thing on Monday, that's one of the big things. And then I split my time between, well, I mentioned I do recruiting. And so all of the processes for every single HR process has been created. And so everything's going a lot smoother now, but the entire recruitment process, performance management, I say that, but like we launched feedback today, but the company is globally dispersed. So a lot of them have never had formalized feedback. And so the last couple of weeks, I would say I've been spending a lot of time pulling together trainings, having the one-on-one discussions, putting together manager forums, training the entire company. So there's a large focus on training and change management and communication, knowing that there's the language barriers. And so really focusing on getting, simplifying what we're trying to get across and making sure that there is a aligned understanding of that. But in my day-to-day, I work very closely with the managers, the teams themselves, but also mostly on projects, bigger projects. Right now I'm doing a leveling of the entire company for the current roles and what roles we could have, career pathing, but then also figuring out the responsibilities for every single role at every single level within every functional area. And then the skills, competencies, summaries, education, trying to build all of that out. So I guess my day-to-day is very, very unique and very different than what it would have been like as a business partner or an HR specialist. I mean, I have grown up in the HR space. So this is just kind of a very unique, nuanced role of a tech startup, but I report directly to the CEO. And so a lot of my day-to-day is self-driven by what I know needs to get done, but also it's a lot of managing up. So I don't necessarily have someone telling me what needs to be done, but it's a lot of me taking the strategic HR lens and providing my recommendations to the C-suite, being a true partner to them every single day at all the aspects, but then also bringing a wider lens and kind of stepping outside of my HR box. Like if I see major communication or process failures internally, that wouldn't necessarily be something that HR would step in and support. It would be an operations person. I have a direct report. He doesn't have an HR background. So then I coach him on how to kind of support that. So I don't know if I did a good job summarizing my day-to-day because it's kind of chaotic. I feel like I'm in a better place than I was a year ago at a tech startup. We have a lot more than we did. So it's fun. It's fun.
I think, like you'll hear a common theme that we've all said is that we're always busy. And if we're not busy, something is wrong because there's always something that we should be doing and more. We have to be as absurdly crazy with our schedule as possible. And it's kind of like the weather where you go to bed thinking, oh, it's going to be 70 and sunny tomorrow. And we're wrong 70% of the time. Right. And we're dealing with human beings, right? So we have to kind of figure it out. Yeah, Ashley, as I said, Ashley and I's lives are a little bit similar. Sawyer is doing, so much, quote unquote, of it. But I say it's every adjective under the sun. You just never know when it's going to show its face. It's a lot of that. I own a 43-person staffing and recruitment firm. So it's a lot more of running the operations and just the full life of the business with people that are doing different things, along the way. So I do like having some of the operations, life that goes along with it. And then we have a sister company that does a lot of what you would group into human capital consulting. So we do a lot of compensation, we do job description creation, we do retention, attraction, onboarding, issues, or if you want to call it that, any employee pain points that we can work on solving. We do a lot of that, too. So it's a lot of fun. You never know really what's going to happen, but it's fun to try to be in control as much as you can.
Great. Thank you all. I'm going to refer back to, I'm not sure which one of you said, but one of you said about flexibility being an important skill and trait to have. So I can see that being important in all of those roles. Okay, we have multiple questions in the Q&A. So I'm going to throw this one out there, and hopefully one of you will be able to answer. This one says, any recommendations for a 40-year-old transitioning from human services into HR? This person is finishing up their MPS, their Masters of Professional Studies, HRER, transitioning from human services into HR. Any recommendations or tips?
I would just love a little bit more context on human services, just to give a better kind of response. I'm not as familiar with that as a career.
Okay, so if you could type in some more information, I'm assuming human services is more along the social services side.
I would say like helping, any type of helping professions, nonprofit work,
Mhm.
that type of those types of human services, social services fields.
Okay, so I can answer that. When we were working actually years ago at Amazon, we would, I guess, have conversations with the team members on how to pivot and transition into more of the leadership focused roles. And so we would do the resume reviews and have conversations. And a lot of their examples would be fast food chains or working in the restaurants. And that was actually how I got my first internship in HR at Penn State, because it no longer exists, which I'm very, very sorry about, but the deli, I was a waitress there. And so when you are working in any sort of customer service or human relating type roles, which I assume this human services would also bring a lot of the same characteristics, it's all about dealing with people. It's dealing with people in the best of times, but typically the worst of times. And so how are you communicating with people? Being able to kind of translate very specific examples, being empathetic, that is huge in HR right now, and it's not going away. People are dealing with mental health at an unprecedented rate. So just depending on the type of industry you're in, I mean, we're seeing it across the board, but how are you handling team members that are coming in and trying to balance work with personal situations and bringing that lens and compassion, knowing a lot of leaders aren't thinking that way. Again, it's gonna depend kind of company to company, but bringing those skills, understanding how to actually deal with people, balance multiple priorities, especially in a fast-paced environment, and really being able to communicate and connect with people at all levels of an organization, which HR is. I mean, it's a very diplomatic role. You're talking to all different types of people. We're not supposed to be the party of no. And so you need to be bringing solutions and really thinking through all aspects and perspectives. And so as a human services professional, you would be doing a lot of the same roles. And so I think if you can figure out a way to demonstrate that and really highlight your expertise and your experience and what that could look like in an HR profession, it would go a long way in the interview process.
Thank you, Sawyer. And to that student, that is absolutely something that a career coach in the Career Enrichment Network could work with you to get that verbiage down on a resume to market yourself for specific positions, as well as discuss that in an interview with an employer. So thank you for that. Our next question comes from a current junior, double majoring in LHR and Spanish. The student just applied to the integrated undergraduate graduate program here at Penn State in HRER. This summer, they will be studying abroad in Spain, but hoping to secure an HR internship next summer after they complete their undergraduate degree, and they'll have one more year in their master's. The question is, how does a recruiter view a master's student applying to an internship, and when entering the workforce, what level of positions should this person be looking for? David, you're unmuted. Thanks.
So yeah, I mean, I think most of us are smart enough to realize when we're looking at your resume, okay, you're in a 5-year program, you graduated one thing here, and now you're going into this. So we realize that, yeah, you didn't graduate your master's or whatever, like this is the opportunity for you to get an internship. It doesn't matter if you're getting your master's now. Like, so we're smart enough, we have good deductive reasoning. So I don't think you have to worry about that. I think deductive reasoning is an important trait in like our world and just mostly in life anyway. But I mean, I'll kind of, I'm interested to see what Sawyer and Ashley say too. At least a lot of our, clients, some of the 5-year master's, programs, they're wonderful, and you come out with a master's degree, as well. At least what I've seen, like a lot of our clients seem more attracted to folks that might get a master's degree, after they might have been employed for a little bit. Right. And maybe some people see a master's degree as, yes, education, but it's also the contacts and connections that you make with the other students and the professors in those programs that will really help to propel your life and your career, not just, a paper that comes saying master's right after it. And I'm not poo-pooing it by any means. I almost did the 5-year program, and I actually regret that I didn't. And I think it's, it's wonderful. Having a master's is great, but those are just some of the things that I hear, some of our clients and our folks say. But yeah, I think you're perfectly fine applying for an internship, and we'll use our deductive reasoning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really going along here. We have a couple more questions and I really want to get them in if we can. It's almost 5 o'clock already. The next question says, this is a transfer student entering HR this fall as a junior. The student feels a little bit behind as they don't have much experience with any LHR related courses yet, but interested in an internship for next summer. The student's wondering what they could prepare with their lack of experience. Ashley, could you talk to this?
Yeah, I think for one, go to your career services, amazing people. They will help you and guide you. I think too, definitely go to the career fair in the fall. That's when a lot of companies are looking for the following summer internship. So like that is the place where you're going to meet with the recruiters, you're going to meet with the companies, they can put a face to a name, and you can really be there and be confident in what you're looking for. And I wouldn't downplay the fact that you don't have the right classes or you just got into the internship. I think I would be really confident and excited on why you're targeting a specific HR internship. What stood out to you about their company? Why are you looking for an HR career? What are you passionate about? What are you motivated by? Again, like I was an econ major and I'm in recruiting and HR, right? So I think it's just being strategic, connect with the career services, really see, okay, what are the companies I'm really excited about that are going to have HR internships at the fall career fair, and go out and network and build relationships and connections and see where that goes to. And just be yourself. I always tell people when they come up to the career fair, just be yourself, like you're just having a conversation, and really showcase your interest and your excitement for wanting to learn a little bit more about that company and their internship or full-time opportunities. And that goes such a long way. That great connection, you never know where that relationship or network can, bring you to the future too, but 100% definitely go to the fall career fair and connect with career services too.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. And I love how that you asked the student, what are you motivated by? Oh, Sawyer, do you have something to add?
I was going to say, well, I think the last two questions, something to note is the importance of an objective on the resume and how you can use that to frame your intentions. And so whether you're transitioning to a new role or you're finishing up a master's or studying abroad and coming back, like that is where you can have a clarifying statement. No matter how busy a recruiter is, that's the first thing they're going to see, they're going to read, and it's going to contextualize the rest of your resume. So definitely take advantage of that. And be specific about the opportunities. Like, don't just blast out your resume to everywhere, but a few that you're really interested in and that they could be a good fit. Put like, I am interested in this role at this company and this is why, and that will be really eye-catching. That's just a trick that I have used, and I've gotten that feedback from recruiters about how they have not seen that done and how it really went a long way in the process itself. For the junior who is late to the game, Penn State has excellent clubs that I was a part of. There's SHRM and SLUR, and there was another one too. I wasn't a part of it, but it was more focused.
Oh, Sawyer, you're frozen right now. I'm going to add a little bit to what Sawyer just mentioned. She mentioned SHRM. So if you are in an LER major, you should be receiving a weekly communication from yours truly. And one part of that communication talks about the SHRM and the virtual SHRM weekly meetings or regularly scheduled meetings. So pay attention to that email and reach out. They are both led by fabulous organizational presidents. So, oh, Sawyer, you're back.
I'm back. I don't know what happened. It just said Zoom unexpectedly quit, but yeah, both are excellent. SLUR is more aligned to if you're in that major and it is labor heavy. SHRM is for everyone. They do bring in a lot of business folks as well. So you could be in both. They are a little bit different. They do attract different kind of career panelists and discussions, and they do different things. But I met some of my best friends in those clubs. So despite them just being helpful generally to get a better understanding of HR and hear from alumni, and they also connect you with different companies and interview opportunities and some of your best friends. So
great, thank you. So we have one last question, which is what motivates you in your work? So I'm going to ask you each if you can just let the listeners know what motivates you in your work, and if there's any parting last fabulously exciting and motivational words that you can provide, please do. So we'll start with you, Ashley.
All right. There's a lot of things that motivate me, and also why I like being in recruiting. I'm motivated by people. I'm motivated by building relationships and connections. And again, going back to the word impact, creating an impact for someone, creating an opportunity. And the thing that I really love about the staffing industry is you're creating an opportunity impact for yourself and others. I would say in staffing, you're really driving your own success and destiny. And that's what I really love, of being in control of my success and the opportunities that provides for me. So what motivates me is really the opportunities I'm creating for myself personally, professionally, my goals. So kind of going back to the goal exercise, but then also thinking about the impact I'm creating for students and connecting with them, and sharing the awesome opportunities that we have here full time too. So there's a lot of different motivating pieces for me, but it really, at the end of the day, boils down to the people and the relationships that I get to provide and create. And a last piece of advice: go to the career fairs in the fall and the spring, connect, because even if you're looking for an internship or a full-time opportunity, usually it's the same people that are back to the fairs, and building up your network, connecting with them on LinkedIn, sending them up a follow-up after I met you at the fair. I'm really excited to stay in touch. Goes such a long way. So big recommendation, and come by and say hi if you'd like to come see me. I'll be there in the fall.
Great, thank you, Ashley. David?
I say it's the smiles, right? It's either to put a smile on someone's face or to keep the smile on someone's face. Like that's what HR is. Sure, there's 100 other things, but like that's what it is. And Ashley can attest this. Like sometimes our clients will say, yeah, we're gonna call and email, the offer. And I'm like, no, it's the best part of my job. Like that's the ultimate smile on someone's face, right? So it's, creating that smile and putting the smiles on. And I would say that's the one piece of advice. You have to just fall in love with enjoying the process of putting smiles and keeping smiles on other people's faces, and be selfless and be able to, convey the culture and the personality of the company, and just be a lover of people.
Thanks, David. Sawyer.
Well, trying to summarize my thoughts here, because I don't want to sugarcoat it either. I know I've been very, very positive about HR through this entire talk, but it is challenging. It is probably one of the more challenging careers out there. You're dealing with the best and worst sides of people, a lot of times the worst side every single day. The pandemic was absolutely the most trying time of my career to date, just because everyone else was having a very difficult time. You do have to kind of put that smile on. You do have to be that strong pillar that the company can rely on, that when everything else is kind of falling apart, that someone is being intentional. They're thinking about a solution to a problem, and how you come up with a solution to a pandemic, is beyond me, but we all had to put that front on. But that being said, the best part of my day and the best part of my job is also the same thing, that is those challenges. It's you are the person that someone can rely on. They have someone they can trust. They can come to work knowing there's a safe space, that you're going to be there to help support them through their career, to develop them, to having transparent conversations, provide feedback, create an engaging culture and environment, and a wonderful place for everyone to work, and be a partner to the people, to leadership, to have a voice and add value, and all of the above. So that's kind of what motivates me. Like I said, I don't want anyone to not come into HR and not have eyes wide open, because I think like the first couple of years of your life in an entry-level position are kind of shocking. Just especially like I went right into a warehouse environment. It was pretty intense, and companies vary, but the things that are the most challenging aspect of your job will motivate and drive you every day to bring your best self, even on the hardest days, because you're making an impact to everyone else.
Thank you. That is such a great way to end this time. So I want to thank all of those in attendance for showing up and asking such great questions, and thank you so very much to our alumni panelists. I appreciate you sharing your time, your expertise, and supporting our students, and for being great mentors for our students as well. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. And Danielle, did the folks get our contact info if they want to reach out to us with like questions or anything? Or
is that okay? Well, we can absolutely provide that, and I'm assuming you all are active on LinkedIn. They can check you out there and say, "Hey, fellow Penn Stater," right?
Ashley and I spend more times on LinkedIn than with our own families. So. Unfortunately,
I believe that. Yes. We will make sure that they have your information. Thank you again.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.